Wait, is it up? It's all the way up, right? I don't even know. Okay. Sorry, excuse me. Sorry.
Start a long time.
Seriously?
Every time I start Snow going I kind of like so I still can't see her, right? I can't see Snow over there, I try to hide from her, right?
What's up, everybody? He back to still in the mojo again, Snow. He just ain't even letting the mojo
call y'all out.
He's just always doing that to us.
Call you all out on the
He
place.
just puts us on the spot because he hates
Anyway,
us.
so I'm gonna be on my phone a little bit. I'm still sending out the invites. But what's up, everybody? Another edition of Talk Your Shit.
Yes, it is.
Why are we? See? And I'm turned all the way down because you told me to turn all the way down.
I'm his Jamaican
You see that?
interpreter.
You see that? No, do you see what he does? Like,
He's very Jamaican.
No, he's just very backwards, bro.
There's a finger here.
Anyway,
No,
what's up, everybody?
What he said.
You know what I'm saying? So, it's another episode of Talk Your Shit, you know. It's the beginner or entry level to BDSM. And, oh God. You know what?
She want her spanking. And that's she want, you know? The teacher
Why
used
are
to
you
say,
being bad?
hold out your hand.
You?
Go ahead. Oh, harder.
Oh, so you're a bad girl.
Yeah.
There you go. That's how you get that part. Yeah. So
okay, anyway. So, as you can see, we're fully into the whole segment right now. BDSM, all of that stuff. So, you know, Sheldon, he didn't want to give us any time to go ahead and send out the invites.
I understand we black folks, but we start on time right now.
No. We
But
start
Don,
on time.
you didn't even tell us.
You didn't
like,
tell us nothing. You didn't have us, get ready, nothing. You see what I'm saying? No. He's stealing the mojo from us again. That's exactly what it is. You didn't see his mischievous type of vibe?
Right there.
Right. That shit just... Anyway, so we back again. It's beginner BDSM. I'm going to keep sending out these invites. But if you... I'm going to... You see, she just waiting. Stand up.
She's just waiting on us spanking. That's all she's waiting on. She sounded at Harvard.
No. Yeah.
Kids.
Anyway.
I'm a Jamaican interpreter.
So, today, actually, before I introduce the show, y'all already know who I am. It's your boy DJBiggs. Hello. I see my whole shit is thrown off because of this nigga. And then you want to mess around with the tools and everything, prematurely introducing these things to people.
Right?
Anyway, to my left is...
Hi, I'm your girl Snow. What's up? I touched it because I'm curious to know why we have cooking utensils on the table.
Well, you're about to find out.
I guess, apparently cooking utensils can be used for more than just cooking. So we're about to find out the real deal, McCoy.
And I'm Shata Don, the guy with the Yoni plan. Well, tonight I have the BDSM plan for y'all, so
right.
Yeah, definitely stay tuned for that.
Hopefully he doesn't have any more things tuned in store for us because this dude here, boy.
We wasn't ready.
You know what I'm saying? Anyway, so we're gonna jump into this
my topic, right, Chris?
And
my tip. This is my topic right here.
Right here. Yeah, no, this is definitely our topic, bro. You feel what I'm saying?
Just expressing my love for it.
Yeah, no, I love it. Anyway, I guess Snow's...
We got a beginner right
Snow's
here. Snow's
fully oblivious to this. But, fellas, we're pretty much kind of changing up the sex news, and we're bringing our own type of news to you. Mm-hmm. Basically, we're seeing now today that a lot of relationships are failing, and a big part of it is because people get complacent within the bedroom. They get sexually frustrated. It's just the same old routine, same behaviors, same all of that stuff.
Missionary backshot.
All of that foolishness. All right. So, with that being said, we said, hey, not only are we going to spice up the show, but we want to spice up your sex lives.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? So, today we going to really talk about it.
Yes. We're gonna talk about it.
So, sex news of the day is basically behaviors. Okay? Now, in BDSM, half of it is knowing what to do, and the other half is knowing how to acknowledge and implement behaviors. You get what I'm saying?
Okay.
Yeah.
So, with that being said, I'm going to start off with the men. For all my men that have wives out there or girlfriends, you know.
Or side chicks.
No side chicks.
No
side chick shouldn't get this type.
Not me.
Oh, okay.
You're so dumb. Say you walk into the house and you want some cutty.
What is cutty?
Pussy.
Oh, alright.
Boom,
The
boom.
thing with the split.
Punani.
Listen.
The thing with the cut.
Nappy dugout.
Oh, alright. Now I understand clearly. I know
Okay.
what
Okay.
Cutty for the buddy.
All right. So,
alright.
so basically, what you do is you walk in. Say you're coming off of a day where you're professionally dressed, right?
Okay, so you're forward with one.
You're forwarding home. She's in the kitchen.
All right. She not the kitchen. I cook.
Right.
English, my friend.
I'm doing the Jamaican translation for
So
this.
alright.
basically, okay. So Roddy, you're a liar. Black men talking about black men don't cheat. Laugh out loud.
We don't.
Oh, okay.
Who
Yeah.
is
I
Rod
second
trying to
that.
impress?
Right. You ain't selling nobody
I second
nothing.
that. Black men don't cheat.
Okay. Now, honestly, you come in. You have a tie on.
Fair.
Okay. I'm gonna show you how to get it popping with certain things that you use in your everyday life.
Right.
You get what I'm saying?
So basically,
You haven't gotten any from your wife or your girlfriend in a minute.
Or a significant other.
Right. Significant other. But I was just
no
targeting
title.
the males right now.
No title.
And basically they're talking back like this all the time.
All the time.
All the time.
Because I talk my shit.
Right. And
So she can get in
basically what you do is
Wait, he wants to know what's being cooked. You gotta get detail now.
What's being cooked? Oh my god.
all I know is it better be my food. You understand? Because it's gonna be some different news.
Hold on. Alright, oxtail and rice and peas. You alright now?
Yo,
Alright,
honestly,
go
No,
on.
try to cook some macaroni and
Hold on,
cheese.
do
That's
that
why she
again
gets some
because I don't
meat.
understand what you just did
I said-
with your hands.
I
Because you talking with your hands.
She
a
just
whole
went
lot.
Jamaican on y'all too, bro. Y'all saw
You know
that?
what? No. I got something for this.
Did
So,
this
fellas,
Did this
you understand?
did he just-
starts.
did he just tie me up?
You see, when you have somebody like your girl that's acting real abrasive,
Nigga, you saw this
you
coming?
know,
You gotta show
And-
this house.
and
I knew you were gonna get yourself in trouble.
what like they keep talking and they keep acting a fool. So sorry, but not sorry.
But
She
you-
gets put in her place now.
You do that after she don't cook the food though.
Right. Now, the fact that she hasn't given you anything and she's wondering what the hell is going on, you see, because she's looking at it. You know what I'm saying? And then you have to ask her, so what's the issue?
Is this what I bought the tie for?
And not only that, but you've already taken off your tie. Okay? So now there's other things of restriction that you can use, like a belt. So, you were talking all that good stuff. And
Right.
I was trying to figure out exactly what it is that you have a problem with. Snow? Snow. Oh, see? You see the behaviors. The behaviors click right on. They get right there. Okay? Now the fact that you haven't had any in a while, you're a bit abrasive. You're a bit abrasive. So you start asking assertive questions.
Such as?
See, because she likes to keep her mouth going.
Gotta control that
So-
windpipe.
I'm sorry. What were you saying again, Snow? I didn't catch that. I just didn't catch that. You see what I'm saying, fellas?
Exhibit A. Control.
The behaviors become different. You understand? So, with that being said, she keeps going on and on. You have a counter there. And she keeps having this, I would say, dominant posture, right?
Too dominant.
Right. So, you have kitchen utensils. You see, now I already got it popping with 2 items. 2 that came off of your body. The other ones are laid out for you. Snow.
Mm-hmm.
Answer me, please.
Yes.
Now, you give them an option. Would you like to take your spankings with a nice spoon or a spatula? That's the only choice.
He has 2 choices.
It's whatever you want.
That's a good
It's
girl.
whatever he wants.
See, the behaviors become different. You have not started to get at her,
You have not.
and she's already aroused.
The pussy is wet at this point.
Right. Wait. Did I give you permission to laugh?
Please have a map or towel nearby. This is Slippery Kitchen.
You're not supposed to make me laugh, okay? Fuck. Home. You
Yes.
have to now arouse different behaviors and different reactions out of your woman. Now, I'm going to have that done for now.
She's a good girl.
Because she's been a good girl. So you reward her. At this point, you would probably prop her up on a nice table.
And give her.
Or a counter. Maybe eat her out.
And give her.
Maybe give her the dick. You understand?
And that's how you bought her with that one right there.
Okay. Or, you basically carry her to the bedroom. Do not untie this, by the way, because you can tie her from behind, her hands from behind. That can be used leverage, leads to, that whole jerking motion.
They go with the hand. Right.
Right. And you proceed to give her the dick. You understand? So that's basically one way you can actually do it. Now, fellas, when you're doing this, all right, it's very important to understand that you have that commanding presence.
Totally.
All right, you do not ask any questions except for what you want.
Precisely.
Those questions to be asked. Are you feeling okay? Feeling good? Speak, please.
Yes, I feel amazing.
Thank you. Now, what I'm trying to say is
Permission given.
Snow, you are so great. I love you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. And ladies, this is how you behave.
Now,
All the
ladies,
time.
Just cave. Just let it happen.
Yes.
All
It's
the time.
exciting.
It's
Totally.
very much exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
Be submissive.
Now,
Sexy.
men, I showed you 4 different things. Ladies, you can use the same thing. Grab his fucking tie. That's around his neck. Bring him down to his knees. Don't say anything.
Mm-hmm.
Put his head deep in between your thighs. The rest is, you command it. It's fun.
So how you command it?
How do I?
No, how would you command?
Yeah.
I'll place these things in front. And
You're my subject?
Yes,
Right.
he's your subject.
Okay.
I'd like to see this, and we're going.
Hold on. Stick out with my feet. Me never volunteer for them.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
No, hold on.
Hold
Hold on.
on. Oh.
On a car police.
No.
Can't kill me.
You're talking too much.
That's sexy. They are dead.
I'm a little aggressive with it, but
But ladies, you get the idea. Hey, yo, why don't you say thank you, Daddy? Yes.
Okay, so basically, me personally, I think that the grip like this is actually sexy. It's definitely commanding
Very much.
for a man or a woman to
Very
do.
much so.
And definitely eye contact.
Ooh, hello.
So.
I like it. Yeah, that was it.
I mean, there's more,
I
but
felt I need to misbehave some more.
Don't be afraid.
You know what I mean? I feel I need to misbehave some more. You know what I mean?
Don't be afraid whatsoever. See,
So let me
ladies and gentlemen,
Terrifying.
these things are like I said, find a nice spatula, nice spoon. I actually like the wooden spoons.
What is that?
They're very nice, and they actually won't chip up on you. This is kind of plastic.
They're highly sturdy. Oh,
Yeah.
don't worry about that. They're perfectly fine.
Yeah. I was wondering about that too,
Right?
but you know,
that's
it's
just YouTube.
You know, I
being
speak
YouTube.
my truth, so.
That's just YouTube being YouTube. We're fine.
Okay.
okay. So
Mad thing.
yeah, you know, so fellas, remember, Ty.
How dare Chris telling me to take it like a man?
Yeah, take it like a man.
No, you know me better than
Go
that.
on.
Preferably a
When
belt.
you're told to speak.
Oh,
Okay?
That
okay. Now,
No.
relax. I need you to relax. I need you to relax.
This is one weird fucking threesome right now.
Because all I did was grab the back of her neck, and she was like, "Ha! There we go."
Then she's still like, okay.
I'll be the most unincorporated person ever.
This is why with Talk Your Shit, you can't find it nowhere else.
Hey,
You can't. It's
ladies,
special.
Shit up.
Ladies, I'm the type of guy you can't tie up well because I'll be not nowhere. I'm not gonna
No,
complain
but
sexy.
But here's the thing, like I said, a belt that actually has, you know, the loops, you know, where you can actually
A
get
leather
to
belt
it.
is good too.
Leather belt is okay, but that's no for spanking.
It's good.
Oh,
Should I tell her what she like?
I like
Leather belts
that.
are.
She
Do you
like
like to
it.
get spanked on your tatas?
Leather.
But don't spank me on my tatas.
First of all,
You don't spank
who are
on
you
the
talking to
tata.
like that? I don't understand. Oh, you're trying to defend
Should I
yourself.
tell her she have the stiff
I
one?
like that. I like that. I like when you give yourself trouble. I really do. I like when you give yourself trouble.
So here's
I just started. This is embarrassing.
See,
a very awesome wife. That's what
So-
that is.
so like I said, fellas,
Yeah.
have fun with it.
Definitely.
Be creative. You know, this is your first time. Now, 2 warnings. Please
Alright.
do not try to draw blood.
Why? That's
Okay?
the S part.
No.
Maybe you should explain
No.
what BDSM.
Well,
No.
If you're a beginner, don't mess with the S and the M part.
right.
Let's just stop at B and D.
You're right. Just stick with the
Stay
BD.
right there.
Should we define what B and D means to the people that don't know?
Sir, go ahead, sir.
Yoni Master, Guano, Chapter Team.
Am I turn?
Yeah.
I can take it away.
Yeah, take it away.
Alright.
Go on. It's your playground.
So,
Here we go.
hold on. Wait. Hi, I'm Master Sinjin. Now,
Master Bigglesworth.
Okay.
this is how I play.
No.
Now, on my right, these are my demonstrative subjects. They're gonna demonstrate my level of BDSM to you. All right.
No, I'm not.
Now they can misbehave all they want, right?
Oh.
Do all they want, but the Master
You want to use
Sinjin,
Master Sinjin like that?
the Master Sinjin take a hold of them. You know. Yes. Anyway, as I was saying, B stands for bondage. D stands for dominance. Now, the first thing you want to do when you are dominating your subject is gain eye contact, especially when you haven't controlled that person before. Right? So as I'm giving you eye contact, you want to give them eye contact. One of the easiest things to know if someone is, how do you say, you know, like when a wolf bows down to the leader of the pack,
Right.
in a sense. You look her in the eyes, right? You ask them a certain question, and as they explain themselves, don't take the gaze off their eyes. Keep looking, right? It's hard for a person to bullshit you when you look them deep in their eyes,
Fact.
right? And then you slightly tilt your head. Now, her head is going to tilt with you. That means that you have established dominance.
That's right. Body
Now,
language.
if it's a person that you and her doesn't have an agreement yet, this is not your spouse or something, right?
Bro,
You give small little lessons.
why is it that it's saying, somebody just sent me this image saying no connection, playback
Are you
ID.
guys seeing me? No? Nobody seeing anything?
Hey, you guys
Let
go
us
ahead
know.
and please let us know right now because
Let us know. I will reconnect the stream. Let me know if you guys are seeing me so I can continue
Didn't we try to
this
do
lesson.
right, he
Didn't we try
Oh, this
to
is
do
playback
Right.
for us though.
I'm actually getting feedback right now because certain people that are watching right now, I'm basically trying to figure out if
are they not getting play?
Did it stop? Was it playing at all?
That's what I mean. The people that are telling me, like, I got this image right here, playback. I guess they're hearing us, but they're not seeing us.
So you guys are hearing but can't see. Chris says it's working fine. Ask them to try to bring up the link.
Okay.
Try to bring up the link on your phone on a different network and see if it comes up for you. Bring it up.
Yeah, I'm trying to.
Let's just test the playback real quick, right? Just throw me off, Master Sid.
I'm so sorry, sir. It's just. We're good.
We're perfectly good. So this is a one-off situation, which I think I'm pretty technical to know when it's not working. But
but usually we see.
But yeah, just try to reconnect.
Yeah.
Whoever is not seeing it.
Biggs, you're interrupting. Shut your mouth, Chris. Shut your mouth. Sophie, you're awesome. Chris, you suck.
So,
matter of fact, let's not bring up the. You know what? It's okay. We're gonna leave it at that.
As we were saying,
you're still a Padawan, okay?
One of the easiest way to establish dominance over someone that's not your spouse or someone that you're not have any kind of sexual agreement with, booty partner, whatever. I'll tell you the smallest little thing. One of the things I like to do is you establish certain rules and punishment, right? It's a little game I like to play called Better Yourself.
Right? I like that game.
So let's say I meet Snow.
Oh,
hello, Snow.
Why is Snow the test subject?
Because Snow is who they want to see.
Snow does something a lot. Snow asks why a lot.
I do. I must know why.
See, I proceed to tell Snow that I don't like when she asks why a lot, I like a woman that simply can follow instructions pretty well.
Oh.
So I ask Snow, can you follow instructions pretty well? Mm-hmm. And Snow tells me yes. And I tell Snow, I don't ask when you ask me why, okay? For every time you ask me why, I'm going to give you 5 spankings.
Mm-hmm. Do you start to see you get the whole gist?
Now, at this point, Snow doesn't have to say yes.
Right.
She just doesn't say no.
Right.
Now, you have to be a dom of your word. If you say you're going to give her 5 spanking every time she says why, you give her 5 spankings.
Right.
That's what she's expecting. The minute you do not be a dom of your word is the minute she knows you cannot control her anymore.
At all.
Right? So it's a little bit of, I'm going to set some rules, and then I'm going to punish you when you break those rules.
Right.
Try it out with anybody you have a connection with. I dare you. Tell me about it. Comment in the section. Let us know. It's going to work like a charm.
Have you guys ever, actually go ahead and comment in the section and tell us if you've actually tried the whole dom sub thing.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of doms in here too.
I don't. I see a couple Padawans. I see one that's been trained very well.
I see a couple of doms.
I see a Padawan as well. I see. I see one master there.
See, what y'all have to understand is in a relationship, there can only be one master.
Right.
Very true.
Now, there's some people out there that love the switch thing.
Yeah.
You guys know what a switch is? It's basically when both sides can play dom and sub. Right. Man can be submissive, and then at times he be dominant type of stuff. And I hear a lot of ladies say, well, sometimes I like to have control in the bedroom. It's not always him or stuff. But if majority of the time that person is leading,
right,
they're the more dominant one.
Right.
If you have to ask for special permissions to take charge, you're not the dominant one.
You're the sub because you're pleading. You're pleading your case.
It's simple and it's natural.
Also sexy.
It's natural.
It's very fun, honestly. Ladies, if you play the correct sub, you will see your man get the hardest he's ever been.
Right.
Okay? If you are a complete and utter great sub, I'm going to let you know right now, he's going to fuck you in a way that you've always wanted to be fucked.
Real good. In that way, real good.
It's something that it's not. It's a stimulating of mind and like spirit type of thing.
You fuck the mind, you fuck the body.
Right.
You know, all control is the same. You know what I'm saying?
It's so great.
You know, and as Roddy says, plus, woman, this doesn't mean that you're weak or a man.
Oh, by the way, you are sorry to cut you, bro. I keep doing that, but you're much more stronger than you even think if you can be a proper sub.
Yeah, that requires you giving up control.
Right.
It's not easy to give up control, especially, and I this is just a statistic, so don't kill me for this.
Right.
Especially black women.
Whoa, let's talk about it.
You know I'm right.
Let's talk
Hard for
about
y'all
it.
to give them control.
Well, I mean, to be honest with you, I don't fit in that category, but I do understand that black women definitely have it hard to, you know, give away their control. But me personally, I like to be controlled. That's why I'm attracted to strength. I like to be controlled. I'm definitely submissive in every sense of the word.
We love that. That is beautiful coming
I
from
have no
ears.
problem for it.
That's beautiful. As a master, that's beautiful. You know what I mean?
Not only that, but ladies,
I like to be controlled. It's sexy.
I'm gonna tell you right now, with that attitude right there, you'd be in the more controlling situation than you even know.
Because you get everything you want. Everything your heart desires. You get it. Listen, I'm going to say this, right?
Really quick.
Real quick, because we got to come off this subject, right?
No, wait. Hold that thought. So I want to say this really quickly. A keynote to knowing that you're a sub is when you like to hear these two words, good girl. If when somebody, or man or woman, whoever your significant other is, says good girl to you and it gets you wet,
Or good boy.
that is definitely a sign that you are a sub. Don't fight it. Just let it be. I promise you'll enjoy the fuck out of it. Because I know when I hear good girl, it definitely does something to me. So,
She did something right.
go ahead.
You know what I mean?
Go ahead.
Just to follow on the black girl things, I can't tell you how often a lot of black girls are like, "What? Don't spank me?" type of stuff. Listen, spanking is not an ass whooping. I just have to make that clear out there because a lot of people distinguish it. I know we grew up on a culture where we get an ass whoop as a child coming up, and it's like somebody gonna say they gonna spank you. Like, what?
Yeah.
Nah, you ain't gonna hit me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Spanking is not an ass whooping.
No.
And I recommend you start with something light.
Yes.
Especially if you bruise easily. You know, you want to start with something light like
Something
this.
light and flat.
You know,
Right.
totally. And then
If
can
you have
move up
wooden
to more
spatulas.
the firm things. And there's a lot of things around the house you can use.
Right. These are just examples.
Yeah.
These are just examples of beginner stuff. Then you can get into the whips, the massagers, the cattle prods, the nipple pinchers, the whoa. Wait. We're getting ahead of ourselves here.
Snow, like she said.
Listen, I just had a really great vision in my mind.
Yeah, tell us about
Would you
it.
like to know?
Absolutely.
Share?
Please
Yeah.
talk your shit.
So I just
Snow.
had this vision of like my significant other coming to my job on my lunch break with handcuffs and telling me to get in the car and handcuffing me. That's just really fucking sexy. Yeah,
Yes.
on my lunch break.
Yes.
Ooh.
Absolutely.
Do you see?
And
All
if-
right,
and if
that was
you're-
my moment.
No, see now this
Thanks
is
for
no,
letting
but
me
you
share.
see how fun that is.
Yeah,
That would keep that dude, like, he would send you back to work like, oh, I can't wait to get home. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and like these are the things that you want to have with your son. It's more than just sending nudes and video. I mean, it's fun. Those
Yeah.
things are great.
And
Please
sexy.
don't, and sexy. Please don't be boring. Send the nudes, send the videos, all of that stuff.
It's
Okay.
more. Listen, if you
But doing these
I have an
things.
hour lunch. 30 minutes to the
Roddy says, well, where you work again? She worked next to the water.
Next to the wall.
That explains why I'm always wet. You see?
You see?
That shit makes sense.
Atmosphere in my units.
Fuck yeah.
So I'm gonna leave you with y'all with this last. Right? If
I'm gonna sip my tea on that one, or my tequila. I should say. Yeah.
If you recognize from tonight that you are a sub, just remember this: if you forget anything, that the best answer is always yes, master.
Ooh, my
Can I
man,
say it?
my man,
Go ahead.
my man. Please say it. Please
Can I
say
say
it.
it?
Please say it.
No.
Yes.
Mine?
Yes.
Guess what?
Yes, master.
There you go.
You're
That's sex
so
news of the week.
Have fun.
You gotta say that like Joker, bro. You know, you gotta say that like pretty.
You know, just for that, I have something special for y'all to enjoy.
Yes.
Before we get into our other segment, so
You feel me?
go ahead and enjoy this real quick.
What are they gonna enjoy? Oh, hey, what's up? It's your girl Snow. Damn, that was hot, wasn't it? Anyways, sorry. So, like, subscribe, comments, follow us. We can't wait to see you. Do it for me. Better yet, do it for the Knicks.
I know y'all enjoy that shit.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
I know y'all enjoy
You guys
that
enjoyed
shit.
watching me make a fool out of myself?
Yeah, it was pretty funny. It's pretty cool too. Anyway.
So we're moving into sex position.
Yes.
Of the week.
Yes, the sex position of the week.
Right, and being that this
Apparently.
this is beginner BDM week, you know, we gotta hit them off with something real nice, right?
Right.
We do.
Now, honestly, I really like this position because just the name alone is
like all
dope.
the positions.
Actually, I do like all the positions because I've tried it.
This one is.
You know what I'm saying? I fully go. I've studied this shit like it was a major in college. You know what I'm saying? I got my doctorate.
This one. This one I really like. I mean, obviously I'm a guard in this one.
Right, and this is called the prison guard.
I wonder why.
Now, for y'all niggas that been to prison, don't get no flashbacks or nothing, bro. All right, I'm sorry.
What?
Just chill. We gotta get through this. But yes, I'm talking. I'm talking about shit.
My God. Yo.
Hey man, you know what I'm saying? Like, hey, you know, we all know. You know?
What? All I'm saying is.
No, they gonna be like, nah, fuck no, I ain't trying that shit. Fuck prison guards, nigga. Fuck.
I'm just saying.
That's not cool. They're victims. We can't do that.
Ladies,
not the ones that get conjugal visits.
Listen. First of all, the guards in the ladies' prison, the guards, the ladies in the ladies' prison they really ain't having no issues, you know, because they get dicked down by the guards all the time.
All the time.
You know, so.
Okay, that is different.
Even female guards get dicked down by them boys in the yard.
Right.
You're hearing the stories now.
Trust me.
Yeah,
you ain't never watched Netflix? Locked Up?
No.
All that shit?
No.
Yeah, you might want to see that shit.
Yeah, they be sneaking the
They
cutty.
be sneaking. They be getting it. They be getting it, bro.
They be getting it in now.
But no, but for real though, honestly, yo, like this is one of the sexual positions. It's number one, it's easy to do. It's entry level. Number two, it's the master striking out their dominance as well as controlling that ass.
See, my thing about this position is you gotta hold the risk.
Right, you have to hold the wrist very firmly.
You got that behind it.
Yeah.
And it's all about stamina at that
Right.
point. You just go work.
Working. Now, while you're doing this, fellas, understand that you have to talk nasty and dirty to her.
All day long.
Who's my little slut?
I know. Ooh, I could say she wet.
Whose pussy is this?
Yes.
Those type of things.
Yes.
That's when you can say that, fellas. Not when you're missionary and you're about to bust in like 2 seconds and she's like, oh, you are daddy, all right.
And not only that.
Y'all get that shit.
Not only that, you get to walk the prisoner now.
Right. You get to walk with the
You
shit.
get to walk her
You
now.
know what I'm saying? Like that. And that's one of the actual key topics of the fitness part of this.
And if she ain't trying to bend over, just lift her hand a little higher.
Right.
She go down more.
Right.
You know what I mean?
You know what I'm saying? It gives you more control when you actually are putting the wrist up because it makes the body bend forward. You know, depending on their shoulder cusp. Now, if she's double jointed, I don't know what to tell you, because she can just put that bitch all the way around, bone breaking. So, with that being said, now you just have leverage of the wrist.
Oh shit!
Or you can actually tie her.
Right.
And you can actually grip it.
And now
She's
you
more
got it.
access.
Oh, so now you're into it.
Yes.
All the time, because she's like, I'm taking all this in. I like it.
I like it.
She just been paying attention real good. Like,
right?
I'm about to try this shit here. They don't even know.
I'm sorry to disappoint you guys, but I'm familiar with this position.
I didn't say you were. I didn't say you weren't. We were just talking about everything.
So that was flashback.
Okay.
That was flashbacks.
What? No.
Flashbacks. Flashbacks.
Yeah, she been put in the prison guard before. She been the prisoner.
She been a prisoner.
Her.
Yeah, that one is good. I'm telling you. Vasquez could say, don't let Lady Boella come out now. Y'all don't know this, but Lady Boella is the opposite of a master.
Right.
You know,
She's dominatrix.
She's a dominatrix.
I'm aware.
You know, so
I'm fully aware.
You know, Roddy said that's the G-spot distributants.
Have you ever been have you ever played that role of dominatrix before?
Absolutely.
You know, so she almost killed me.
You didn't see how strong I handled that?
I mean, it's not just all about strength, though. It's about grace and strength.
Absolutely. Well, this is me. We're talking.
I'm just, hey.
From she cut off the circulation off my head, my body was hers. There was nothing I could do.
I know how to grip it hard, and I know how to grip it slow and long, and I know how to grip it softly.
So you just gonna leave me hanging? Okay.
I'm sorry about that.
Grip it hard.
Sorry, I stand corrected.
I know how to talk to him nice.
Talk to me nice. You know what I'm saying? No.
And I know how to talk to him rough. To make him do whatever the fuck I want him to do. It's that simple. Right, baby?
No.
Good boy.
Here's the thing, right, about me. Right? She would have got me to do what she needed with the hey baby more than the fuck I want to do. I don't respond to authority well, given my status and all. But
we end up, choking you.
I end up let her continue until my choking hand gets where it needs to. And I have a record now. It's been 5 seconds blackout, but
wake up like, what happened?
You know,
it literally took my life. What the fuck?
You're being a bad girl.
I did say that last week, didn't I? Okay.
You know.
Yo, Turbo, what's good, What's good, boy? I just seen that you was in here. What's good, my G? What's goody?
Like I said,
what?
What do you do when your G-spot only get touched by doing anal? Laugh my ass out, y'all, on some type of shit, magic trick.
Yo, okay, so when your G-spot gets touched only by anal, that's actually a good topic, but that's kind of more for intermediate BDSM.
Right.
Yeah, anal is usually an intermediate thing.
Yeah, we actually have a few, Never mind. We'll just leave that for a minute.
I just want to say I'm clutching my ass cheeks.
Some sex, right?
Like this shit right here, I'm just clutching.
See, now,
no, but I guess you came in
that's
like,
just,
damn, like
that's just
just a little bit different.
That's just gonna make it hurt worse.
Right.
Okay, all right.
Breathe deep.
That part.
Breathe in deep. And breathe out slow.
Going back to the prison guard. Now I'm getting flashbacks. What the fuck?
But the prison guard can be anal too. You know
I know.
I can't. Oh my god.
That's what I just said.
That's what happened.
I left the what? Yeah. That's all like I really posted. I bet they shut the fuck up, y'all, man. Yo, Chris, really loud. You know what I'm saying? No, we're not left nothing. You know what I'm saying? But honestly, these, like I said, my fellow freaks.
Yes. Dominate all her homes.
If you're not a freak, then basically we're hoping that we cultivate that up out of you, because the fact is,
we want to turn you.
At least
join us. It's fun over here.
Oh.
What she said.
Oh.
It's real fun over there.
Like young M.A. Oh. No, but for real though, like serious shit though, like these are the things and the behaviors that you actually have that
keeps it interesting. It keeps it interesting.
Yeah, it keeps it very interesting.
You can never get bored just doing some,
Ladies, how many times have you had a man? Okay, I'm gonna hit it from the front. Okay, I'm gonna flip you over, hit it from the back.
Yeah.
Okay, I might spoon you for 2 seconds. Then he busts within like 10 minutes. You know? The shit it's not working.
The average person, right, that's lame, knows 4 positions. 4. Missionary, back shots, woman on top both ways.
Right.
That's it.
That's it. That's all that exists in their little small brain.
If this is you, you need to go back through all our shows right now.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right. Yeah, this is a study course.
And go through all our sex positions.
Once you
and try
graduate,
some shit. Right?
Yeah.
What you say? I don't believe in marriage.
Marriage, LL. Oh my goodness.
A piece of paper just tell you who owns what. That's BS. Yeah. The paper can't tell you.
Yeah, the paper can't tell
You gotta grab her by the throat.
Right.
Now look in the eyes.
Right.
That's what tells you.
Bitch, you mine.
Actually, I don't do it like that. I'm partial to being a vampire.
That's when the niggas just came out of jail. Don't do that part.
You know what I'm saying? I'm partial to the more vampire thing. You know, every movement, everything that you say is kind of seductive. It actually is more of a compelling tactic.
When you sire her to you.
Yes.
You are not mine.
Agreed.
Vibes. We like it. So, I like the sex position this week?
Yeah, it was good.
Like it, yes?
It was good. It was yummy.
It was yummy.
It was.
Yeah.
It was definitely yummy.
Let me see some watermarks for who's going to try this week.
Yes,
Definitely a
please.
must do.
Please.
Yes,
and,
I didn't say
watermarks
must try, I
and
said
kitty
must do.
cats, please. You know what I'm saying? Try the sex
Must
position
do.
of the week. It's,
Yes.
We have this here for you guys.
Especially if y'all sit in the office all day for work. Get your ass on your feet and fuck.
Right.
Not the bullshit.
It's just
I'm just saying. Just take
burn
a
those
charge.
calories, man. Burn those
What happened
calories.
to write it? Like, because with your accent, it sounded like you were gonna say write it. You know.
Right it. No.
Alright.
A prison guard time. Take control.
Yeah.
Okay.
You understand? Yeah. All them there. Like it. So we're gonna move on.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I
Let's do
mean?
that.
Totally awesome because we got some awesome porn star of the week.
Yeah. Actually, I'm really excited about this.
Yeah.
Really? I'm not, because I have no idea who she is.
You didn't check out her
You
stuff?
didn't check out her stuff?
I did not check out her stuff.
Oh my
Oh my
god.
god.
She scares me.
No, she shouldn't.
She's beautiful. I'll be honest with you. She's beautiful.
Is it the same person you showed me earlier?
Yes. So this one is Sheena Shaw,
Sheena Shaw.
and
Miss Shaw, if you're nasty.
and she's right now ranking, I think, number 3 in the top BDSM actress. Like,
Whoa.
that's how much title she got under her belt.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like, the woman
Like,
likes to be
literally
tied
under
up.
her belt,
The
huh?
woman, I think she gave her little 3-week, recovery and come back again. Like,
Right.
you know what I mean? But she just looks so fucking amazing doing it. Tied up in all type of positions. For a white girl, she got a little booty.
I think we figured out what Don's thing is, you know. Like, he definitely is.
That's
That's his first love.
All my previous porn stars I chose, they were into that hardcore stuff. So
Yeah.
y'all can kind of see my pattern.
Well, we chose people that were in the hardcore stuff. Honey Gold was.
Honey Gold.
Sarah Banks was.
Absolutely.
They all did BDSM, but Sheena Shaw, bro, she takes it to a different level.
Yeah.
Those are all young.
This ain't
They're
even
all
beginner
young.
BDSM.
Oh, they're
She's
juniors.
yeah.
She's a senior.
She's
a senior
master class
Oh, she's okay. Master
Yeah.
class.
in
Okay.
all sense of the word.
So she's the dean.
Huh? You understand?
Ah, I get
You
it. She's the dean
understand.
of students.
Trying to turn you into the dean, though.
Trying to turn me into the dean. Oh, I'm already the dean. Like, you have no idea.
Yeah, we do it. Yeah, see. Yeah, she's my principal and everything. Yeah.
Ooh, principal. I like that.
I like it. Yeah, I get her a schoolgirl outfit.
Next show.
She gonna teach class.
Really?
Everybody that
I wanna
no.
see-
You
Y'all
ready
wanna
for
see
this?
Snow.
You all want to see Snow in a schoolgirl outfit, knee highs, glasses, and all.
Yep.
Drop a 100 in the comment box right now.
Yep.
Let me see it.
Do that
I
right
need
now.
y'all to light that up right now, because if we get
We getting it.
all of that, I'm telling you, she's gonna dress up
With
next
the
year.
chartboard and
With
the
the
ruler. You remember
Yeah,
that ruler they used to have,
the
right?
whole backdrop is gonna be a chalkboard next week. I'm telling you right now, and we ain't even playing.
Teach them how to squirt. Teach them how to squirt.
I'm not dancing.
That's a lie, because she
Hey,
loves
hey,
90s
hey,
music.
hey.
Just put one on.
Listen. You said that you was the dean, the principal, and all of that.
I sure did.
Put your coochie where your mouth is.
I
all 100.
That was a good one.
That's a lot of 100.
That's a lot of 100 right there.
Wait a minute now. Wait.
No, we're doing it.
We need to talk, Robbie, because this is...
No, you're doing it.
That's what we're talking about.
More hundreds.
We talking
He
about...
dropping hundreds like it was a strip club.
Really? It's raining right now. Like it's raining.
Yeah,
we
that's what I'm
getting the
talking about, bro.
schoolgirl outfit.
Interactive, yes. We're getting the schoolgirl outfit, all of that. The Tata's gonna be perked up.
I have no
With the
glasses.
With the
ruler.
With the pigtails.
You know.
I have
Matter
no
of fact, describe y'all favorite teacher in school. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Everybody had one.
I have no say in this.
With the small little backpack.
With the back.
With the short skirt and shit. Ladies, get
Class
this.
too, right?
Start dressing up for your mans.
Yes.
You understand?
Costumes are awesome.
That's a part of BDSM too.
People.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Role play is a big part.
Yes.
Yes, sir. Y'all gotta do role play.
I'm trying to tell you, when you role play.
But you know what's funny? A lot of guys don't really know how to role play. It's kind of funny because when you start,
So
they
you
either
this?
get they either get timid or they don't know what to do, and they kind of look guilty. They have this guilty look on their face, like they're cheating on you. It's the funniest thing.
This is called overthink.
Let me tell you a story really quick. I'll make it fast. So, I knew he was there, so I popped up on him, and I pretended to be somebody completely different. I was like, God, you look so sexy. What's your name? And he was like, you know my name. I was like, no, I don't. I don't know you. What's your name? He was like, and then he told me his name, and I was like, okay, it's nice to meet you. So I was like, buy me a drink, and he bought me a drink or whatever, and then we're chit-chatting, and he's looking at me like, he's looking around to see like who's looking or if I'm playing with him or he wouldn't get into it. So finally, I put my hand on his lap. I was like, take me somewhere so he could fuck me. He was like, what? I said, take me somewhere so he could fuck me. And he was like, okay. I said, do you have a girl? He was like, no, yeah.
He didn't know what the fuck to do. He was just I don't know what to say.
I was like, do you have a girl? Yes or no? It better be yes. And he was like, yeah, I got a girl. I was like, good. I like fucking guys with girls. He was like, okay. The whole time I was so confused and lost until he slid it in finally. It was just like, that's when it came to him like, oh shit, you really wanted to do this. So, with that being said, it's true.
Highly retarded. He's highly retarded.
A lot of men don't really.
Who are you dating?
And it's probably true because when I was a novice, it probably would have caught me off guard.
Yeah, when we were 17 years old.
No, but look, it really depends on how good you are at acting too. You know what I mean? Like
that is true because she kind of look at you with that dominance of, no, you don't know me. What the fuck? What you mean I don't know this?
Yo, that's too funny. Like, yeah. Snow?
Yeah.
With a question mark. Snow? What's going on here? Roddy's still dropping hundreds. Like he trying to make it all blue hundreds.
I think he wants to be the one to buy the costume.
Yeah, I think he does. Oh my God.
But yeah, it's
we gonna pray for that guy.
No, we definitely gonna pray for him for real.
Yeah, we apologize.
Nigga, I hope he's learned now
from that one. Yes,
I hope so.
I would have probably thought this was her twin for real. This chick trying to fool me.
Hey, well, first of all, if it's I don't look. If you got a twin and I fuck your twin, you can't tell me that I'm lying saying that I thought it was you.
Oh,
That's the thing.
I can't.
I've had twin.
I can't.
And they're different.
First of all, if she coming up to me kissing me like everything regular, degular, schmegular, all right, and I slide in,
yeah,
and then all after the fact, she's like, "You're fucking my sister."
I can see if the ambiance is.
That's not my fault.
Really, nigga? It's not your fault that
No,
she's
it's
like
not.
that?
Dan's fault.
Dan's
fault. There's a similarity, so
absolutely.
he can be tricked.
Right.
I thought it was my girl,
right?
For all intended purposes.
Okay, look, vodka is dropping hundreds
Even
now.
though.
yeah, she wants to see you.
She wants it.
Yeah.
Yes.
She wants to see
Vodka,
you.
I can't wait for you to come over so I can feed you.
Let's get ready to rumble!
Look at my face. You know I'm gonna make this happen, right?
Next topic.
No. We stuck on this topic.
She needs me to stuff her face with something.
Anyway, we got all the way off of Sheena. Okay.
We gonna create our own damn post.
We got all. Okay. It's gonna be Snow. You definitely already know.
Yo.
It's gonna
Title right there.
It's gonna be Vodka on the Rocks.
Oh shit.
Yeah. Oh.
Get it?
Yo, that was dope.
With a cherry on top.
Y'all see that fucking tongue move? Yo, I swear to God, she do that shit 100 times a day and I miss that shit. All the fucking time she do it and I miss that shit. Yo, let's try to count it, guys. Do that shit for 5 seconds. Let's see how much you do in 5 seconds. You ready? Count with me. Go ahead. With cherry on top. Chris found the bank.
Fuck this
Fuck
shit.
the fake hundreds.
This shit got to pee. we threw money on this show before, so
Here's the fucking bank.
take all of that shit. Nah, but yo, seriously though.
Now, hold on though. I really want to count that tongue movement though. I really gotta see how fast you go in 5 seconds. Big count in 5 seconds.
Hold on,
please.
wait. So should we do this competition thing? Because I kind of got some good tongue movement too.
All right, so Biggs and Snow eaching you out. Y'all let me know.
Oh, they don't want to see me.
Which one works
You're
better.
right, because we got a whole lot of dudes. You're right about that.
I'm looking out for you, bro.
Good call.
You feel me?
Good call.
Like,
You doing it for the ladies. Guys ain't paying attention to you.
yeah, but there's a lot of guys.
Yeah, there's a lot of guys. There's a lot of guys not doing it. Even though we had to pull prison guard position and all that shit. No.
This remind me of...
I'm sorry.
Is she having an orgasm?
She's having a laughing orgasm.
That shit looked like it came from down here. Look at it. Look.
No, you know that laugh that hurts in the fingers.
I can't with y'all.
I'm sorry. Okay, alright. Okay. You're good? Yeah, next.
No, she got me. I can't
It's
listen
got
to
the
fucking
No,
time.
not kidding.
Of course they want to see Snow, not Biggs. Hey, yo.
Sorry. Oh my God, Snow laugh is contagious.
Oh, I can't. Yo, she just lost all her breath, bro.
She losing everything right now.
Yo, Ronnie.
Orgasmic laugh.
No, but Ronnie's like, yo, facts, Biggs. Stand down. Stand the fuck down, nigga.
Oh my God.
Abort mission. Abort. Go get some water.
I can't even get up.
Oh my God, that was too
I'm
funny.
gonna go get her some water because I like the way she drank.
Oh my God. Oh shit.
Was that your water?
Yeah, that's my water. Thank you. Next time, please have some Evian.
Evian. Hold up. Your chest too fucking high. Boy, you are Evian. Take your
That's what I drink.
Yeah, take your Evian ass over there. Okay, because you can have Nestle. Okay? You ain't too good, boo. You ain't too good, boo.
First of all,
Evian. I want Fiji Voss.
no.
Evian. I only drink the best. Your chest too fucking
I
high.
don't understand Jamaican.
Real high.
He said she too high price. He talking about she wants some Evian.
And look, you heard the accent with it too, right? Evian.
First of all, it's not Evian, okay? It's Evian.
I know that. You forget my look. I'm not even gonna do this
So
with
like
you.
something Sky Eyes on aviations.
You know what? You're disrespectful, okay? It's the best water on the planet.
Y'all watch how she drank. Do it again. They missed it. Do it again. Watch it. Why don't you put the bottle in the mouth? Watch this. You gotta turn sideways for the camera. Let them see it. Turn your head down.
He's talking about the fact that when I drink from a bottle, I stick my tongue out. Doesn't anybody else do that? Like
No.
I have no.
Only you know.
Only me. Please let me know that I'm not the only one that.
You're
that
not
drinks
giving the
with
bottle
my
a
tongue
rim
out.
job. That's what you're doing. A rim job. Do it.
But when you do this, it feels weird. There's nothing coming out.
Yeah, so do it.
So you have to put your tongue out so the water can slide down easily.
Sure. Slide down.
You know what? Fuck the both of y'all. Okay.
First of all, excuse me, the fucking is extremely up to my wife. Thank you very much. And being that I'm not intellectually circumcised, I will pay you no money. Since you want to be bourgeois, I will so be bourgeois with your avion.
Next topic.
For her pleasure.
Oh.
It's your shit. Yeah, that's all you. Talk your shit now. Since you want to talk that shit.
Okay,
Can't even talk no more. I'm laughed out.
Today's for her pleasure is
Snow pop pussy on the handstand. That's what it is.
my hood ass.
Now she want to be ratchet. First she was bourgeois. Now she want to be hood.
With her velvet throat ass.
Wow, this nigga.
More to slide.
Is everything I say sexual?
I love you.
Yes.
Snow.
Stop lying. No. I know you didn't just ask that.
I did.
Snow. Let's not act like brand new today, okay?
Alright,
And you got me doing this with my hands and shit.
That's your segment. Just a reminder, because you done laughed it out.
Yo, hey, yo.
Okay, so today's for her pleasure is the power of touch. Okay, so maybe we don't know this, but the first language that we learn, being babies and growing up, is the power of touch. That is the first actual thing that we learn before we learn how to speak. And a lot of relationships break up because there's lack of touching. And
Might not work. Sorry.
it's okay. A lot of relationships break up because of the lack of touching, and people don't realize how important it is to hold hands and intertwine the fingers, or to constantly caress each other's hands. Also, even your mind tells you how the power of touch works. For example, when you like somebody, your brain sends a signal to your body to touch them without you even realizing it. Have you ever realized that you have a crush on somebody where you're talking to them, you're like, oh, and then you start like.
That's true.
Yeah, your brain sends a signal telling you to touch them because that's how they can feel you. It's a magnetic feeling that you get when you touch. But there's different types of touch during intimacy or during the time that you're getting to know each other. There's ways of touching like this with the hands and, comforting. But also there's other ways to touch, such as the fingertips. You can touch the face and the nose. Definitely around this area is absolutely amazing. You can do a lot with one finger, and you can do a lot with two fingers. So touch is very important. It's very sensual. It's very sexy.
We're on set. Leave us alone.
It's very sensual. It's very sexy. So don't forget to touch each other. When you're sitting on the sofa and you're cuddled, intertwine your hands and kind of caress each other like this and touch. I'm a touchy-feely type of person. I definitely like to touch in public. I like to touch behind closed door. If you and I are dating or together, you'll find me playing with your ears and kind of, playing with your bottom lip. Because I believe that touching actually expresses more than verbally. So try touching each other more, when you're in public, hold hands. When you're at home, power of touching when you take a shower together. There's nothing sexier than washing each other with your bare hands. I know use a washcloth, definitely
stupid.
A sponge, but definitely use the hands as well and the nails and kind of stroke.
I just kind of took it another level when the nail came into it. That was electric right there. You shouldn't have
Exactly.
liked me.
Well,
Exactly. That is my point. You were gonna say.
I wanted to add on to that basically, you are very correct about that because touch is very sensual. It gets you to a serious point. Chris, we know that you're jealous, but whatever. So what I'm trying to say is that if you're touching the right spots and you're being sensual, especially on a lady, because you guys are so Good.
Touch it.
You know what I'm saying? Supple. Oh, great word.
Supple, yeah.
Give me some. Give me some. Give me some.
Soft.
You know what I'm saying? It works. Not only that, but fellas, another segment, another show will teach you how to make a girl squirt or come without even inserting.
Right.
The power of touch, you.
The power of touch.
The power of touch is amazing.
That's exactly why we're doing the whole BDSM thing, because I'm glad that you brought that up, because you can have someone strapped to, like, you can have somebody strapped to a table and you're teasing them with touch, like feathers, ice.
Absolutely.
All of that type of stuff.
Blowing on them.
Blowing on the right type of skin.
Yes. Amazing. Right.
Very much so. Very much
Yeah.
so. You know? I like that. You killed that.
Thank you. And you can also touch with the tip of your tongue too.
Yes, I was just.
It's crazy.
We're so simpatico right now.
We are absolutely.
I was thinking that.
When you're licking, don't always use the whole tongue. Don't forget to use the tip.
I like to personally spell my name out.
You do.
Did y'all count that shit?
You mentioned that.
You know, it's really nice. You know, especially like right across the top of her chest.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
Especially like in this area.
Yeah, you write your name with the tip of your tongue.
Yeah.
Which area?
which area was it again?
We miss it.
So, ladies, like I said, you got for her pleasure.
Yes.
We went over all 4 segments. First off, I'm going to be honest. We haven't really given shout outs since we started this whole thing, but I'm gonna shout out a few people, like my boy Roddy, boy Chris. You know, these people that have been actually supporting us through these weeks. This is our 7th show, and y'all have been here. You know, Nelisa, Amanda, Sita.
Definitely. I definitely want to shout out All Things Natural. Definitely. Thank you for all the love. We love you.
Yeah, man.
Amanda.
I did say Amanda.
Yeah,
I just said Amanda.
you said Amanda.
Yeah.
Vodka.
Yeah.
Vodka, because she
Cassandra.
goes down smoothly. Definitely.
Oh, I like how you put that. Yes, Vodka. Y'all need to do that. That's going to be something serious. You know. Snow on the rocks. You know.
Snow on the rocks.
Vodka on the rocks. Sorry, my bad.
Relax.
It's okay.
Kids.
You had a moment. We forgive you. It was a good moment.
I can't with y'all. But, you know, like I said, tune in again next week. You know what I'm saying? We have the best fun. Like I said, go over the small things. Make it a surprise. Make it spontaneous. Make it fun. Make it loving.
Yep.
Y'all stay together. Y'all love. Y'all touch. Y'all fuck.
Yes.
And y'all watch the show every Wednesday.
Yeah. And talk to each other while you're fucking too.
Yeah, yo.
Talk
that nasty shit.
Talk that nasty shit for real.
Real. Listen,
all right,
man.
so that's it.
Yeah, that's it.
Guys, appreciate y'all.
We out.
Yes, we out.
It's your girl Snow. You already know.
Your boy DJBiggs. Hello.
Hey. And Shata Don,
leave me hanging?
the man with the unit.
You left me hanging earlier, so something right.
Nah, you ain't gonna give me no daps and shit.
Oh!
You know?
Hey, we got to shut it off because they're about to. Oh my god! It's about to go down.
No.
It's about to go down.
No.
I'm telling you.
Next
No.
show.
Yeah.
Forget that.
Okay.
Stop your bullshit.
Uh-huh.
Alright, keep talking your shit and see if I don't talk my shit.
Oh, let's talk it then. I'm waiting to what you want to do. What do you want to do?
What you want to do? Really? You really want to do this, my guy?
They can't hear you.
Oh.
Trying to start that shit.
Understand me. No, I want to feed my family. I just need to be my understanding. People walking with me like Tammy. I just need to be my understanding. Wanna be a bitch, I'm like man. I just need to be my understanding.